We got indictments coming out the wazoo. Now we got another one in Atlanta. Now we've got Michigan indicting the alternate slate of electors. But then we go back to 1960, and Hawaii did the same thing. The Democrats in Hawaii did the same thing. They called Nixon for Hawaii. AP did. Democrats said no, votes still aren't in. They set their own slate of electors up, alternative. This was 1960 Hawaii. They ended up reversing Hawaii, giving it to Kennedy. It didn't matter because they already stole it in Illinois. So now they're indicting people for something that the Democrats did in 1960. What say you, Professor Kline?
Well, it's an extraordinary abuse of power. And it's the type of abuse that puts this nation in crisis. People are talking about the possible coming crisis in the 2024 election. We've already met it. And it's a consistent behavior by the left. If you go back to 2020, what you saw is the abuse of emergency police powers and COVID fear to radically alter the way that we elect our president. And in those radical alterations, they opened the door for manipulation of ballots and also closed the door to the American people being in the counting room in those core urban centers. That is a fact, and it has not happened before. It happened for the first time in 2020. Those monies were used from the private sector to convert those offices into partisan turnout centers. That is illegal. Not only is it a violation of some specific statutes, but it's a violation of a core principle in American constitutional jurisprudence. That is that we treat people equally before the law. All ballots treated equally, all voters treated equally. That was not the case in 2020. That is a fact and has been proven. And when people tried to raise concerns about the issues, such as our project and many, many others, they intimidated and threatened and tried to shut them up. When Biden assumed power, the Justice Department sent out letters threatening state legislatures with possible investigation and prosecution if they looked into what happened in 2020. You see people being prosecuted for trying to gain access to the apparatus and the documents that would indicate whether the election operated properly. What you see is them criminalizing the political opposition. They also are trying to silence people, just like they did in 2020. The prosecution of former President Trump is just that. When you look at it at its core, it's a legal argument. But they're saying, no, you have no right to argue. If we disagree with your position, it's criminal to disagree with us. That's a totalitarian state. And it's frightening how much of America is willing to go along. And I believe part of that is we've seen an infiltration in the way we teach our young, and we teach them that government's role is to prevent them from being in any way uncomfortable. We're to give them everything that they want. And if they're discomforted by somebody's argument, well, government should shut up the other side. And John, as I've often said on this show, if we are peopled, if this nation is peopled with individuals who are unwilling to stand for the freedom of those they disagree, we won't remain free. And right now, what Jack Smith and what Joe Biden is counting on is that a lot of people don't agree with President Trump, and some, and a great number, don't like him. And their belief is that sufficient to put a man in prison. It's frightening, it's wrong, and it must be uniformly condemned.